Hey guys, how's it going? This is Rutledge, bringing you another playoff hype video with AOL. I am joined by my lovely guests, Omari and Sheer. Say hi, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
So we're not going to waste any time, as always. Tell me a little bit about how your team was formed and how you guys got to the starting roster you guys have today.
Go ahead, Omari.
Okay. AOL was already obviously a team before this. Just before the season, I think week one already passed and AOL lost to Sad Boys, and I was already looking for a team, and then just randomly in like week two, a kid just messaged me after I posted in team recruitment, and he picked me up.
And I was looking for a team on the League of Legends forums, and I just so happened to message me on Discord, and we told me to try out, and the actual tryout was the game 2 in week 2. So
Because I know that AOL can have that struggle at the beginning. Because I mean, one of your losses was at the very beginning, and the roster kind of got completely rebuilt because of how week one went. And then I just know that like it was kind of I think a last minute thing. A lot of players got thrown in for that week 2 game, if I remember
oh
correctly.
yeah, it was two different rosters. Kid of Fire was in mid lane, if I recall correctly. And
I had never met Sheer before we played against Fight Club, like for our first game, or for my first game at least.
Good thing
this was my legit first game with AOL. This is how I joined the game against Fight Club.
Luckily, Fight Club was not the hardest of opponents, so that's a good intro game in for new players. No offense, but I mean it's pretty fair. So, okay, so you guys kind of just got picked up, thrown together, and mostly it's kind of from all over the place. And I've had a couple teams like that.
It clicked from those two first games.
It
felt like it clicked really well, and we just started rolling. And some games went a bit harder, but that's to be expected from a newly formed team with people that barely know each other, except for Spike and Kid, maybe. But
and Goda, yeah.
Oh, Goda! Don't forget about Goda.
Yeah, there's definitely Iron, Bronze, Silver, Gold. Definitely had more, I think, top weight to the league. There was just some teams that just were not even competing really. And then there was the few teams that kind of traded blows a little bit, especially towards the end of the season. There was definitely a lot closer games, and I think a lot of teams are even closer than they were at the beginning. So I think the playoffs are kind of going to show that, especially this week in particular. I think a lot of the teams that are really close to each other are going to be playing, and I think there's going to be a lot of good matchups this week. But all right, so now we kind of know how at least you two got on the team. But how are you guys happy with how the regular season went, and would you change anything if not? And that's besides obviously just not losing it all, because that's a pretty cop-out answer.
Well, I wish I was here from week 1, so we could have like actually no losses. But
you guys lost recently to EGA though, so
yeah, we did lose to EGA, and it was fair and square. They won. We had a bad game. It had to
better
happen.
team won for sure. I wish I had not only like played better, I like wasn't in the right mind. And we definitely could have done more research on EGA before actually playing that game. We got swept hard.
But other than that, I don't think so. We do enough scrims. We won them 16 out of 17 for us, for Omari and I at the very least.
Yeah.
And we are heading into playoffs confident that we will take it all.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this question is more meant for teams in that first kind of rotation of videos that were in that quarterfinals spot with being that seeds from 3 to 6. So they definitely had some things that they could have looked to do differently during the regular season, whether that's form the new roster earlier or practice more or change their style or whatever. So I kind of expect that kind of answers because honestly, on AR side, I wouldn't say there's a lot we would change. Like obviously, just kind of a couple of drafts that just didn't go great. And just a couple games that just weren't played well. But I mean, honestly, I wouldn't change it because then it kind of still. I think you need to lose a little bit to kind of learn at all.
Well,
because if you're just dominating, you're not going to be improving.
From my point of view, I think our season was okay. It's not the perfect season, but it was a perfect season in the sense that we performed, we succeeded, and we had our wake up call against AGA, where we lost.
There were a few teams that we had our wake up call against. Like
we did struggle, but it's not the same when you lose. You actually lose the game, and that's why like okay, well maybe we're not at the top of the world yet, and therefore we should work harder, better, and get stronger.
There's definitely I think the top of the line teams though, like that definitely is something to like constantly you kind of looking out for it, like being able to learn from just even having close games, like being able to kind of make sure you check yourself, like, oh, like, look, we could have actually done this a lot better. This game should be like kind of pushing yourself to always kind of have those clean games. Not saying AOL doesn't. I'm just saying in general, like for anybody watching this, I think that's what kind of sets those top teams apart, is because like we don't just look at the games we lose as being like problems. We look at the games that are even close as being a problem and look to make sure that never happens again. Because like especially in a close game, if you lose one fight at the end of the game, you're dead. One person gets caught, you just lose the game. So like
Well, I look at League the same way I would look at a chess game. If I lose this game, I'll learn more than if I win it, even though if I struggled.
yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying that you can also, I think, learn from games that are even close. Does that make sense? That's all I'm saying.
Yes, well,
Yeah.
we had to do it from the beginning of the season, since we were not losing, right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
all we.
Yeah, otherwise we would have just like learned nothing.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
been screwed.
All right, let's move on to the next question. So, who's making the calls for you guys in game, and who would you at least attribute to leading you guys to success? That doesn't have to mean necessarily like shot caller in game. That can be like whoever's just who you think's leading you guys. Maybe it's your morale. Maybe it's some other intangible while you guys are in game that's leading you to success. And just who would that be?
Go ahead, Omari.
In terms of a shot calling perspective, I think almost everyone on the team like takes whatever like information they want to give or whatever calls they want to make if the call seems viable. As far as somebody who does it the most, or somebody who I would consider the pillar of our team, it would probably be either Spike or Sheer, since they can both like, no matter what the situation is, no matter how many times they get ganked, how many times they die, how many times they make a mistake, they're still willing to make a call or just remind us like what our win condition is, no matter what happens.
Um, for the shot calling, well, it depends. Well, in the early game, every lane does their own shot calling to a certain extent, in cooperation with the closer lane or the jungler. But for the general, how can I say, the tactics we will employ, the strategy, the decision making in the mid game, most of them would fall on Spike. But from game to game, it changes for the secondary shot caller, if you can say. Sometimes it will be me, sometimes it will be Kid of Fire that thinks something will be the smartest move to do. I would say for the riskier shot call, I would fall in that category, like a risky Baron 4v5 or a base race that we happened to do in a scrim recently.
You can't leak, man. Come on, please.
And yeah, I think. But the MVP for me would be Spike. He does the pick bans. He does most of the researches, and the shot calling in the game. That's about it.
Well, see, I actually didn't ask MVP necessarily yet, but that's actually my next question. So, who would you guys consider your internal MVP? So, you kind of leaked it a little bit there with the Spike. But yeah, this is anybody that just kind of, it's a little bit different from the previous question because it's actually like who just brings the most value. This does not have to be anything related to in game. This doesn't have to be shot calling like related at all. Like who is just bringing you guys the most value, like that you see bringing into your team. It can be a coach, it can be a player. It can be your owner. I don't know if you guys have an owner or like an owner, but yeah.
Well, team captain is Kill Fire.
Gotcha.
No, I would say like everybody brings a lot to the table, but if I really had to pick someone that has a slight edge, it would be Spike again.
I think not only you're trolling, but a lot of people are trolling when they say I'm the star player of the team. Like I'm definitely not. And then I think Shear's trolling, like he's trying to be humble. I think Shear's like probably the best top laner in all of like IBSG currently, and I'm pretty sure he could beat over half of the GP top laners. Like Shear's just like insane. Like from when I first saw him like start playing, like he was just like bopping every top laner, and then like I would see him like do his classic like run it down on somebody and then just BM them like right before killing them, and then I started copying him.
All right, well, let's go ahead and start talking about your opponent. Let's move on to the last part of this interview. So you guys are playing ARA. It's coming up this next, I believe it's Sunday. What are you guys thinking about going into this matchup? What's the team's like mentality? Just kind of what are your guys' thoughts going into this game or this series?
I'll go. I think from this season, Like the whole season, our 2 games against RA went arguably well. Maybe not the first game for me in the top lane, um, but we know we are pretty confident entering that that semifinal. There's some questions we still have to answer, as like who are going to be who's going to be playing where, because we don't know what e sub they'll be using, or if they are using any e subs, and yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, the scheduling was really weird.
Oh yeah, the
Like
scheduling.
just recently, like for this semifinal spot. Like recently, I feel like we got better after the first time we played ARA first. Like of course, it was a close game. Bot lane was like really annoying to play against, and then the second time around we played them, I think they said they won bot, which is arguably true since they got like the first turret, and Centaur did punish me for overstepping, I think once or twice. But I think overall we just beat them like 18-3 in kills and then 9-1 in turrets. Like that game wasn't close. I think that game 1 and 2 won't be hard. I think it's probably a 2, unless like I just eat my words like EGA did.
Yeah, EGA definitely was very confident going into that series as well.
Anything but first would be disappointing, I guess.
That's not the question yet.
Not the question. You're jumping ahead.
Oh, my bad, my bad.
It's okay. But yeah, so kind of diving into this a little bit. I also asked in the previous video, would you guys? So now that we're in the semifinals, right? We've had winners of the quarters. Out of ARA and Sad Boys, would there have been a team you would have picked? Are you happy with ARA? Were you been more happy with Sad Boys? Like, I'm just kind of curious, not necessarily trying to flame, but I'm just curious, like the team that is like waiting on a team from the previous round, if they would have chosen the other. Does that make sense?
I think ARA in terms of drafting, I guess, because they also have you, like, since you show up sometimes in their call.
I try.
Yeah, you try. Sometimes you have to leave them with notes.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of drafting, ARA is a lot more intelligent than Sad Boys.
It's a bigger organization, that's for sure.
Yeah, Sad Boys, they're playing with my heart sometimes. Like they lock in like Lux. I think it's an easy game, and then they lock in Galio top, and I think like it's just lost, and I lose all my dual bucks off that. It's a really sad and stressful time. I think ARA knows like what to draft and like what's the better matchup for each lane, but I think we'll probably like be better in terms of that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, actually, I had in my video with Exile, they actually said the same thing. How they kind of were just like, "What is Sad Boys doing with their drafts?" And that's why they were kind of happy of two guys.
We were all in call. We were all.
Oh, no spoilers. I want to see that interview.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. It's not too big of a spoil. It's just you'll be. It's kind of interesting to see that kind of brought up here as well, because I think a lot of the league had the same opinion. And I don't know what necessarily their thought process was. I'm not internally on that team, so I'm gonna be doing a video with them too. So we'll have to see what they say. But
for me, I'm happy with the matchup. Like for one, because I actually think EXC versus Sad Boys would be a great series.
Oh wait, I didn't actually answer the question.
Well, I'll too late. I'm on it. And,
yeah, finish.
This season, all 3 games they played against each other were pretty great to watch as a spectator perspective, and I think it's going to be a great series. Though that's why I'm pretty happy about the matchup. Not necessarily because we got the quote unquote the easier opponent, if we base it on seeds, but I don't think ARA is easier than the other two. ARA by literally taking 2-0 out of EGA, which was taught about being the powers number 2, maybe some would say number 1. By taking them out, it is a bit scary, and there's like an element of unknown that comes into that series and into that matchup of AOL versus ARA.
Did you want to say anything, Omari, before?
Oh, I'm happy with ARA, but I would have rather played against Sad Boys just because, like I said, the drafting thing. I just didn't make like a final statement.
No, that's okay. Yeah. Yeah, I was definitely. I was there for the first, or I helped plan their drafts, and I still was a bit surprised about how they 2-0'd EGA. So I definitely will see how this game goes. I know really this game's kind of uncharted territory because you guys played against, like, this roster has changed, and I have not wanted it to change as much, but we've kind of just had issues with players after players of like
Yeah.
commitment and stuff. So like the roster is almost like there's only, I think the only retaining part of the team is bot lane.
The boss.
Yeah,
gonna be
also
coming
in
into this
Centaur,
match.
yeah. That's
So,
pretty
like,
much it.
That's what's crazy about the series. So he was a really bad attitude was basically I think the quickest way I can sum it up for you before going into too much details. From our old top laner. But yeah, just big. But we've had attitude issues with a couple of players, and then people just not showing up to practices and stuff. So we've had to make a lot of changes. But I think they've gotten to a pretty good point, and they all seem pretty happy with how with how where it was going. So.
Considering all of the problems Area had in the season, it's credit to them. They made it to semifinals.
Oh, definitely, like from the start.
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenge, and I haven't been in as there as much as I was hoping to either. So I definitely probably could have helped them with, especially some drafts that I still not too sure about. But anyway, so let's go and hop into the final question. So you guys, actually, I need you guys' predictions. So you guys both are saying 2-0, I believe we already had you both say.
Against 2-0.
It could 2-0 or 2-1. I'm not.
Well, you gotta make a prediction.
I have
man.
to make one.
Yeah.
I'll say 2-1 because
2-1. Okay. We'll lose game 1 and then we'll probably
because maybe Omari or I will int and run it down or something.
Oh, yeah. For sure, I'm running it down.
2-1's like the safe answer, right? Because like then you can't be flamed too hard if you lose, because you're like, I said it was gonna be a close series.
But if I say easy 2-0, I'm gonna end up like.
Yeah, then if you lose 2-1, you're like, what a douche.
I just want to add something. Like they 2-0'd EGA, but some people might argue. I'm not to take credit out of our ARA. They won fair and square, but some people would argue that EGA beat themselves at some point in both those games.
You don't be hard 1v9 game 2.
Yeah.
Oh, the Zed with those 2 prisoner boulders where he had to carry everything.
100% kill.
But that kind of just attributes to the rest of his team, maybe just not overall. I think AR did have the better team. Now I think he might have been the best player in the game, but I think the team as a whole was just better. Does that make sense? And I think that's why he was like obviously hard carrying in the second games, because like I think the rest of the team was just losing. So then they took advantage of that eventually. And Zed's also not the easiest solo carry team, but anyway.
As people know, AGA lost because of the smite. The jungler had no smite.
Oh yeah, the DQ was taken. Yeah.
Yeah, there was definitely a bunch of throw plays in that series. It definitely wasn't the cleanest of games, but hey,
it's IBS2.
Kudos to him. He called it. He called it before in the AGA interview.
But anyway, final question for you guys. I just want to wrap this up. Where do you guys see yourselves finishing in the playoffs? And I mean, I just asked this again because I just kind of want to hear everybody's takes on whether they're maybe being super bloated, because we definitely had multiple teams say first place and they lost in the first round. So I'm going to ask every team just to see what everybody says.
I think it's more realistic for us to say first place.
Yeah, for sure.
Everything is up in the air, though, in terms of scheduling and like how like everyone's going to be moving around, including me. So maybe first or second place. If we lose to ARA somehow, then third, because I don't think we'll lose the third place match for sure.
I think the only team AOL could lose to is ARA. Therefore, I would say first or third.
That's a fair assessment.
First or third. I think.
Sorry, Kase.
Now it's time to flame a bit, but I think Sad Boys is an overrated team, and I think AOL just has the EXE number. Like we know how to beat these guys. Just as easy. It's just easy like that.
What's funny to me is I think, and this is the last thing I'm going to say before we hop off this interview, is I think both 1 seeds are matched up. We're going to be matched up against the harder team of the teams coming out of the quarterfinals, if that makes sense. I think both 3rd seeds are kind of overrated.
In the GCS?
In both leagues, I think. In your guys' league and in ours, I think they're both 1 seeds. So AR and AOL would have preferred the 3rd or 6th seed, whoever won that series.
But I don't know if it's for the same circumstance, because heading into the ARA matchup, we have some unknowns. Like we're not even sure against who we're going to be playing, because there's been saying about like there's going to be e-subs for ARA, and this unknown is more of a threat than knowing that the full roster of Sad Boys and EXE. Like we know perfectly who's going to be playing where. Well, maybe not Sad Boys with that damn tater tot that can go in the jungle, but we know their picks. We know how they play. We know, we know EXE.
I gotta cut you off because we got
Go ahead.
we
Well, just like
It's time, dude. It's
this.
time.
We know number 2, number 3, but we don't know about ARA. That's all.
Yeah, it's fine. I was just making a quick little point because I think at least Amari is on the same page, I think, with me as far as we would have chosen the 3rd and 6th seed. But anyway, that's going to be, or at least that's what I would have done. Sorry, I'm not going to speak for you guys. But anyway, that's been the AOL hype video, guys. Make sure you guys check out their game against ARA. It should be a pretty lit series, as I think all the Iron, Bronze, Silver, Gold matchups will be. Actually, just all the semifinals matchups in general for both leagues, I think are going to be fun to watch. So make sure you check them out on Sunday. I believe it's at 4 o'clock. Am I right about that?
Yes, 4 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, 4 o'clock.
Just called it. Oh yeah, unfortunate.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's it from me. Make sure you guys catch me on the next video. See you later.